tonight we continue our cheap shit series of quads. We have, for the frame, we are using the TBS Source One, and I think I got this one from Race Day Quads or Get FPV, and it's pretty much the same price everywhere, about 25 bucks. So you're looking at 25 bucks for the frame, and then for the stack, I went with an F4 stack on this. I could have gone F7 and still come in under the $200, but I would have been playing around with some components that I hadn't used before. This was at least a known quantity, and I came in at like 160 bucks. And this is the Mamba F405 40 amp, and it is a 30 by 30 stack, so it's fairly easy to solder to. It is an F4, so it's not quite, and it's BL Heli S, it's not BL Heli 32. So the performance is going to be good, but not, you know, amazing compared to the higher end F7s and BL Heli 32. But now that we have Jesk, who knows? We might play with that. I haven't decided yet, but my goal is to get this thing out, fly it around a little bit, and then come back and report on it. I'm reusing a camera from a previous build, but this one is actually currently on Get FPV and Race Day Quads for 20 bucks. So, this stack was $45 or somewhere in there. So you're talking about 25, 45, you're up to 70, add another 20, you're up to 90, and then the XM Plus receiver, that's going to be what we're using for control. That's another 15 bucks, give or take. So you know, you're looking at about 105. You've got the this is a AKK Race VTX. I believe I got this for $9.99, but they currently go for about 12 bucks. So you know, if you look around, you should be able to find something that that's even better. But around 10 bucks, 12 bucks. The other alternative is a Nameless RC Nano. I mean, those things are ridiculously small and good, so you can't go wrong with that. And I'm just going to use a whip antenna that I got in like a 3-pack. So and I think this actually came with an antenna. I just misplaced it. Finally, the power. We're going to be running a 1700 kV 2306 from Eco. Now, I haven't used these. These are the Emax Ecos. I haven't used these before, but I hear that they're a great, like, $10 motor. And I think these were $11.99 a piece. So you're talking about 12 bucks, 48 for a set, plus you know, the $12. You're coming in like right at 160, 165, somewhere in that range. Throw on some props, you're well under the $200 price limit that we've set for ourselves. So yeah, this is what we're going to build tonight, and I'm going to get cracking. So let's get all this stuff kind of set off to the side. We'll get our frame somewhat assembled, and that's, you don't really need a whole lot to it. It's basically, you know, an X on the bottom, a top plate, a bottom plate, and fairly straightforward, fairly simple, but works pretty well. These are standoffs. They look like, about 30 millimeter, 25, 26, 28 millimeter, maybe 30 millimeter. It's right in that weird spot where you can't really tell. We got a little packet of screws here. We have the cage for up front, which should hold our camera without any modification, but I don't know that for a fact. Got a gummy for our And we got our arms. Now the arms are not quite as thick as those on the CL1. So for me, that's why I prefer the CL1. But you know, these aren't terrible. They're like 3.5. What are they? 4mm. I think they're 5 on the CL1. But yeah, fairly straightforward build. Alright, get those out of the way. We want to pull through like so with these guys. And unfortunately, the inner ones are our flight stack mount. So if you look at this, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You have in here 20/20 holes, and then the 30/30 holes are right here, and they're also part of our stack. So you know, our bracing and everything else. So you just got to keep that in mind when, you know, if you have to take something apart, or if you break an arm, there's a chance you're going to shear, you know, a long screw there, or a long bolt. So let's see, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 of the super long ones, and 4 of the super long ones. So, and then are those supposed to go all the way up through? Yeah. All right, let's get started. And that looks right to me. Come down through there, thread into this. Okay, we don't actually have anything longer, do we? Nope. Those 4 are for the main part of this stack. So our flight controller will mount up to those. And we did this right. Let's just double check. Yep. So these want to go so that they pull down through. Yep. Yeah. And they one. And then slide these guys under. Yeah, I haven't actually flown a Source One, so I'm excited to give it a shot. Let's figure out what we're going to run for our stack. If we're just going to screw up into the bottom, I think we might just do that. We've got our XT60 connector, and this is a 6S. You can run this on 6S. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to run a 6S build here. And I love these things. Mamba has really done the right thing there. Alright. So we're just going to position our stack so that this guy's towards the back, and then we're going to run a screw up through our holes. Let's make sure we're actually installing it the right way around. Okay. Get the next one lined up. Yep. Hopefully you can see. Okay. Alright, so making good progress here. We're just going to unscrew our flight controller here and take it off. Okay. I have no idea if these little things do anything. I've heard yes, I've heard no, so you use them at your own risk. So there's the bottom plate already in place, and we are gonna just tighten these down one little snug. And that's pretty stiff for a, you know, a $25 frame, you know, that we're basically going to treat like a beater quad. And the next step is to get our motors situated here, because with this ESC it's kind of hard to get the pad soldered up with this guy on here. So I'm just going to do it the standard way. I'm not going to force it. Alright, so hopefully everyone saw Mr. Steele's build or soldering tips, and he does a pretty good job of explaining everything, and I actually really enjoyed it. I watched it today. So, yep, you can learn something new from everyone. Yeah, I do like this stack. I've used it a couple of times on a couple of different quads, and it's always very easy to work with. So for a beginner, this is somewhat of an ideal stack. The pads are simple, you know, you don't have to do a whole lot. It's fairly straightforward. By the way, I've got my iron set to about 400, maybe 410 Celsius, and that's right where you want to be. Maybe hotter. It's up to you, but I wouldn't go below 400. It's all about thermodynamics. You want to get that pad hot, but you don't want to get the underlying layers hot. And the easiest way to do that is to keep your iron really hot. And with the hot iron, you're just heating up the pad and not the underlying layer as much. Okay, I need to make up the XT60. We are, let's see, this is not nearly enough wire for me. This guy is going to run up and over like so. I want Yeah, like 4 inches of wire. Maybe 5. Let's go. Let's just live dangerously. Really? Really? God damn this thing. There we go. The wire in that box is fine. The box itself, not okay. Alright. Okay, get these guys tinned up. Clean your tip, wet it, work some solder down on it. Wet it. There we go. Yeah, if you start seeing what looks like brown or hazy looking, you know, non-silver stuff on the tip of your thing, on the tip of your iron, you really should just clean it off and start over. There's no point trying to work with a scuzzy iron. God. We'll make that work. Alright. And we want, yeah, we're going to put those and those. Okay. So our XT60 connector right here. That side is negative. It's actually labeled on the outside of the thing. So if you ever have questions about it, just look on the outside and you should be able to see a plus and a negative sign. It's actually one of the nice things I like about the XT60. And yes, I know I'm using pretty much the wrong tip for this type of work, but I actually do quite a bit of 16 by 16 and whoop boards. and having to swap tips between a whoop build and a whoop build, excuse me, and a 5-inch build is just a pain in the ass. So I just, you know, I know this is the wrong tip, but you know what? I'm making it work. And it seems to be doing okay. And we want okay. One of the most useful tools you can have in your toolbox is your lighter. There we go. Does a pretty good job on shrink wrap. And my dad, a smoker of, I don't know, 50 years or something, showed me that. Quite useful. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and stick these on here. Okay. Alright. I've got some little straggler strands hanging out. I just want to be mindful of them. Yep. A little extra. Alright, now the negative one's a little bit tougher than the positive one, just because there's a bit more thermal mass underneath of that positive, or that negative terminal. Yeah. Okay. Boom. Right into our battery. Okay. Rocking and rolling. Get some Emax Ecos from China. Okay. For 3mm thick arms, 4mm thick arms. Well, that's what I got. So it's darn lucky. Darn lucky. Yeah, the Emax comes with the right size screws sometimes. You know, you're not going solid beef on them, which is kind of nice. Alright. So to install the motor, you want to take your screw, you want to put it through the base. And then before you screw anything in, you just want to bring your motor base up to that screw, and you want to look at it, and you want to decide, okay, am I going to get into the windings around here, and look at each one and where this wire is in relation to your screw holes, and make sure that your screw isn't going to come up through this guy and just chew into your windings, because that's going to ruin your motor. And I mean, it's like instant death. So and no fun. So do not underestimate the length of your screws. Always check them, even if the package says, oh, these are for 4mm arms, because some idiot somewhere is just you know, goofing off on his break, getting ready to go home for the day. He doesn't care about your quad or how big those screws are. He just wants to be done for the day. So double check everything, and you'll be a whole lot happier with the result. Trust me. That's like, you know, 8-pin cables. Always double check those. But in this case, we're working on the motor, so I'll focus on that. Yep, just make sure that your screws are going to be the right size. Visually look at them too. That's always a good idea. To take a good visual look, make sure they all look like they're about the same size, that there aren't any weird ones in the pack, and you should be good to go. One down, and we're going to go ahead and do, actually, you know what, I might go piecemeal, one at a time. We're going to solder this up, that way I can skip ahead. Yeah, we'll do that. This is motor number 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to reverse 3 and 4 when we build this guy, and we're going to run these like so. And then this guy comes over, comes up. This guy comes over, comes up. All right. Yeah, just make sure that you don't have a ton of little, you know, hairs hanging out. Make sure your wire is nice and kind of together. All right, because you don't want them touching some other component. And we'll just double up on the clean. Yep. 10 that guy. That one. Oh, come on. I can get all 3. Alright. There we go. Now, trying not to melt this connector, this standoff, I'm sorry. Yep. Okay, good. 1. 2. And 3. Now this one I don't really like, so I'm going to redo that one. Yeah. That looks pretty darn good there. Pretty good, pretty good. And what I like to do once I get them kind of situated is figure out my routing. Usually all that means is just pulling them straight by tucking them under the board a little bit, you know, and that usually is plenty. And then what we'll do is we'll tie them down with tape. Okay, so when I get everything done, you'll see that, and you'll see me tape them up. All right, moving right along. Three mil, 4 mil. Yep. On to the next one here. We're just going to lay it out, flip it, strip it, and here we're going to reverse the orientation, and that's because in my experience 2 and 3 you want to be props out and go the opposite direction. Now, not all flight controllers are the same, so your flight controller or your ESC might be different and want different setup. That's okay, because Betaflight and BL Heli can take care of anything you've got. And no matter how it's wired up, you're covered. But personally, I like flying props out now. I wasn't always a props out person. I used to be props in. But yeah, it just after 4.1, it just, I think it flies better than. I think it just flies better. Sure flies good that way with whoops, so it's good for the whoop is good for the gander, something like that. All right. Yep, and then once more, just take and decide, okay, I just want to tuck it under. Do the same as best you can anyway. That takes care of them. Moving on. The holes in this frame are actually elongated. Now, it wasn't always the case that 16 by 16 mounting pattern was standard. It used to be 19 by 16, and motors would have tilt built into them. And this frame is so old, well, the design is old. The frame itself is fairly new, but the design is pretty old. And as a result, it can accommodate both 16 by 16 and 19 by 19 motors, or 16 by 19 motors. Whatever you got, it can handle it. This is the rear, and this is number 3. So we're going to flip this guy around as well. Okay. Take and strip and flip, bring it up, and Just give them a little twist. Make sure all the strands are nice and tidy. 10. And let's get these wires tinned up. Yeah, the flux inside the solder I'm using can aggravate asthmatics. So just be aware of that if you have any asthma issues, or if you're just overly sensitive to stuff. It can really, you know, mess you up. It's not going to hurt you like lead. There shouldn't be any lead in the, because we're not actually all that hot. The lead doesn't start to really vaporize until about 900 degrees Celsius, when it starts to become gaseous. Yeah, shit. You know, that's what I get for building quads in the middle of the night. While I'm holding tweezers, burning the shit out of my fingers. There we go. Ugh. There we go. Happier with that. All right. I touched one of those. Touched this guy here, so it's going to be a pain to get the thing back on it, but we'll do our best. There we go. Tucked in nice. Okay, final one. I swear, if the police ever raid my trash for anything, they're gonna find all these little fucking baggies. I think I'm dealing drugs. Okay. So this one's just going to be straight through like the others, or the other number one. Alright. And then this one goes to here. Okay, give these all just one little quick twist and then solder them up. Always a good idea to use your tweezers. Good. Middle one goes right here. Good. Okay, there's our quad with motors installed. Now we are going to go ahead and figure out our wiring. So the computer connection is a good way to orient yourself, and that's the USB. We have on this side here is where the VTX is normally connected. So there's like a 5 volt, a 9 volt, a ground, and a video out. And then on the front side here is where your camera stuff is usually located. There's a 5 volt, a ground, and a cam. So you've got, you know, plenty of UART and pads and stuff here. Back here we've got 5 volt, ground, and let's see, do we have, here, actually we've got ground, 5 volt, and S bus. That's what we want right there. So we're going to tin up these pads, and that should be our flight controller done. And alright, tinning the board is no different. You just want to get on the pad, heat it up, and then we want 5 volt here and ground here, and we're going to do cam here. Let's see, we want, let's see, so we've got buzzer positive and negative, 5 volt, ground, and cam. Clean your tip. 5 volt, ground, cam. And if you happen to bridge a pad here, just take your time and scrape it off. Get it hot, scrape it off. Alright, now on this side, this is the side with the computer connection. We want our AKK race runs off of 5 volts in. So we want to just double check that, because it could be 9 or 7 to 35 or 9 volts. It all depends on the manufacturer. So we want the 5 volt is on the back side, the ground is on the front here, TX3 for our video or our smart audio, and then video. Yep. So we're going to do okay. Since we've got it right here, we might as well. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to nip these off, re-tin. Because they're a little bit long. This one looks okay. This one looks very long. Okay. Five volt. Now we're going to try and get it down through the hole. Try being the operative word. Doesn't always work. Alright, and ground is on the front side. I don't think this wire is thin enough. The yellow wire is the video in. And the green wire is smart audio. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. Now, the camera is much the same. We've got 5 volts. Let's just double check. Yep, VCC, ground, and video. Okay, good. And 5 volts. 5 volt, and getting the wire through the hole is much easier with this thinner gauge. Ground, and cam. And boom, the camera's wired up. And finally, we're going to, oh, actually, you know what we need to do? What I forgot to do first, wire up our they don't give you wire anymore. Kind of a bummer. But that's alright. We can make do. We've got plenty. Okay. Yellow. Red. And I have tons and tons of wire, little scraps, because I build tons and tons of quads. Okay. Now, on the FrSky, our layout is orient yourself by the bind button. So we have S-bus, 5 volt, ground. Simple as that. And we go S-bus, 5 volt, ground. And we want to take our wires and tin them. So we've got S-bus, we're going to make that one yellow. Just 5 volt. It's the next pad over. And ground. Okay. Two and three. Let's get our flight controller back in our vise real quick. And we want to do the S-bus, and we're going to try and get it down through the hole. Okay, good. Then we've got the next one over. Alright, I need to reorient. Okay, next one over is going to be 5 volt. And finally, the ground. Okay. That should be everything. We'll set this guy right here. Plug this in. Get a whip antenna, get our Foxeer kind of positioned. Oh, yes. Let's see here. We want an antenna. Just using this guy for now. Or not. There we go. Anything else? No, that should do it. Let's see here. Before we do anything, very last check we always do. Very last check before we power anything on is a continuity test, right? So we can go through and we can check each of our pads, make sure we don't have anything touching. Looks good there. Looks good there and there. Looks good there. There and oh. Do we have a bridge? Nope. Alright, good. And then finally, the last one we can do is to just check that our ground and positive wires are not. And everything checks out. So, I feel confident connecting it up to a smoke stopper and giving it a little juice. So we're just going to connect up our battery for a second and see if we get a green light. We did. Hey! All right. Fantastic. Everything checked out. Tomorrow I'll finish up and we'll take it flying this weekend. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, we'll button it up and finish it up tomorrow. Last time we wrapped up the or we pretty much finished the flight controller stack on our cheap shit build, and before we go any further, I wanted to double check that our VTX and our camera is all working, and hopefully this has power. Yes, it does. And we are going to just make sure we're not resting against anything that's going to matter. All right. So, and then we just hold in the button to do the search, and we should get some video. If we're lucky. Are we lucky? We're not lucky. Do we have anything going on here? We've got this guy connected up. That looks okay. Try pushing this button a couple of times. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Well, I'm definitely getting some kind of image, but it doesn't look like anything recognizable. We've got video in, smart audio connected up right. Yeah, there may be a reason why this VTX was sitting in my box. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Let's see if we can get a solid channel. It's getting damn hot, that's for sure. Well, shit. Now this happens sometimes. You get a faulty component, and when that happens, the only thing you can really do is swap it out, mark it as dead, and put it back in, or put it in your pile of deads. And sadly, that pile just keeps growing. So I'm just going to double check everything. We've got 5-volt in, wired up to 5 volts. So our polarity is not reversed. We've got ground wired up correctly, so it's not a grounding issue. We've got voltage in, or I'm sorry, video in, wired up to our video out pad, and we've got TBS Smart Audio wired up to our TX3 pad, and I don't see anything visibly wrong with the board at first glance. So it's definitely getting hotter than hell, but that could just be normal VTX behavior, and who knows what it's actually set to. Like, it's so hot I don't really want to hold on to it hot, and we're not really getting anywhere. With changing the channel. I mean, we get almost a picture, and I mean, we're right up next to it, so I think it's dead. So we're just going to go ahead and cut our losses there. We're actually going to try it one final time without the smoke stopper, just in case the smoke stopper was the reason for it. Alright, so hold in our search. Yeah, it's just got a bad VTX. It's getting picture from the camera. You can clearly see that there's something on that screen, and it's just the VTX is not transmitting it properly. So, and it's not, we don't have a data line crossed. You can usually see in your video, if you have like lines in your video, it usually means that you have crossed a data line or something like that with your regular video line. So no worries, we can easily remove and replace our VTX. That's the nice thing about having individual components on your quad too. It's just a couple minutes. It's not the end of the world. Take them off one by one, and finally, yep, good. Put this guy away, and we will pull the antenna out of this, and we are going to put it in my ever-growing box of dead things. Yeah, not all of these I killed. Some I bought from folks with dead stuff that they didn't bother telling me about. Okay, so we have a couple of options. One of them is this cheaper, this is a you know, I really don't even remember what this was, but it does have 20/20 mounting, so that is an option. We can put a couple of screws through it and put it up there and reuse that guy, or we can stick with our cheap shit challenge, although we're technically under budget. This is an Eachine Nano, and we have a Rush you know what? Let's splurge on this build and use something I've never used. So we're still going to be under our $200 limit even with that failure. because I rarely spend more than 10 or 15 bucks on a VTX, and chances are this fell right into our that sweet spot. And so, you know, like I said, sometimes that happens, and when it does, you just make the best of it. Don't dwell on it too long. Always good to have a couple spares if you can afford it. Yeah, look, we've even got screws and stuff. That's really nice. Screws for our stack. Okay. Yeah, this guy is the Rush, and looks like a fairly straightforward setup. We've got our pins labeled here, and I'm going to double check okay, those are through holes, so those are the same. So we've got ground, DC in, smart audio, video, and the ground signal wire. And we have a frequency and a power button, and then our output here. And we can run our same antenna, or we can mount it sideways and run it a little, but I think we'll run our original antenna, since we paid for it. Yep. Yeah, I think that'll work. And let's go ahead and get this guy soldered up. We need 4 wires. And we have 4 wires. Good. Oof. Unfortunately, it's bad. It's bad silicon wire. It's very stretchy. Some wires like that. You never know what you're going to get in a kit. Alright, let's tin these guys. I saw today one of Mr. Steele's first videos that he ever posted on YouTube from 2014, and he flies almost as good as I do now. Of course, the quads back then were very much works in progress. Yeah, we're going to go on top here, I think. Okay. No, I don't like this. I'm telling you, spend 20 bucks, get yourself a stick vise. It is one of the better products I've purchased for this hobby. And it's 20 bucks. I mean, best helping hands. I mean, I have $100 helping hands on my desk that I've used once. Alright, why isn't this pad cooperating? I think that's good. And that was ground, DC in, smart audio, and video. So we've got ground, try and get it in the hole. Not today. Ground. I'm just trimming these down because they're just a little bit long because of the nature of this. The silicon wire here just doesn't give you as fine a control as you'd like. Ground and 5-volt. Okay, and then the next one is going to be smart audio. We're going to call that one the white one. Okay, and then the yellow one for our video signal. Aha. Sorry, you probably can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to make sure that all these wires have good connectivity and are running in the same direction to come out under the plastic cap that goes over top of this, which I kind of forgot about. There. Okay. That should do. Now we can and it goes like this. And that's it, right there. So for 2mm screws, I have a kit just like I do for all of the others, and we can mount this on, we have a number of options here for 2mm. We can do something like a nut, which is a fairly typical sort of mounting option, or we can go with one of these TPU based spacers. I think I'm going to go with a very short TPU spacer, just because I have lots of TPU and can print more. So makes it real easy when you need to mount something that's a little different or didn't come with all the parts, or you're doing it special. You can always make it work, which is one of the nice things about having a printer. And we come up through the bottom, and then we'll put our TPU mount down on top. This will actually give us a kind of a nice place to mount our receiver as well. We can zip tie it over top of our... Oh, come on. Boop-a-doo. I want to get it in place. That way I know how long I want my wires to be. So, good. Yeah, I'm actually excited to fly this. I've never flown a TBS Source One, and this guy, I'm curious to compare it to my cheap CL1. So, cheap CL1 should fly about the same. Alright. Let's see if I can do this a little easier. Okay. Well, those look like about the right size, so let's see if we can just get them soldered in place. Hopefully they do what we want. A little bit of solder to wet the tip, and then we'll just stick it right down in there. Good. Go with this guy. We want a white one to go on next. One of these days I'll move my stuff around and position everything exactly where it should go, but until then I'll just keep doing it wrong. There we go. That cleaned up nice. Okay, finally, our video. Good. Yeah, it was weird, that VTX working out like that. It's almost like it was in pit mode, but I mean, we were right up next to our receiver. It wasn't in pit mode. Okay. We're going to try it again here in a second. We will take our smoke stopper, because anytime you make a change, plug in your smoke stopper, and always connect your antenna. That's pretty good, I think. Okay, now let's see if we can get a signal out of it. And there's a green light. We've got red and blue flashing. So let's see what we can find. Yup. I see an image. There we go. That actually looks pretty darn good. Yep. That should be everything. So now we've got our we know that everything is working. That's what we know. It's late, I can't think. So, last little bit before we finish up, we're going to get our model configured here in our radio and get it bound. That's the other thing we need to do. Let's make sure I can get this in shot. We need to select a new one. We're going with a multi, and then I just page through these. Long press to confirm, exit, page. We want to call this one the, we'll just call it the Source One. exit. Good. Now we come on down to our mode. We want D16 selected. We want channel range 1 through 6, and we're going to put it in bind mode. Now, one of the nice things that I built recently is this. This is a tool just for doing bind mode stuff. So the way it works is on one end we plug this guy into our tool, or into our quad, and we plug the other end into a battery, and we make sure that the switch is in the off position, and we shouldn't have any lights come on, and then when we do, it goes green, right? So now we have a free hand to hold in our bind button and turn it on, and then that puts it in this red light mode. Okay, so you should get a red light, and then when we click bind here, it should go red and green in a second. And sometimes you need to move it a little. Try it one more time. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn it off again, and we're going to try resetting just the way it was. We're going to turn it on and see what happens to the red light. It should go, it's flashing. Okay, so we didn't have the button all the way down. We're going to press that button and hold it in nice and tight for, yep, there we go. So it's red and green at the same time. Now when I click the bind button, it should start flashing. Now we know it's bound. We can stop here, power off the quad, exit out. So we're just exiting. And now when we turn it back on, it should go red, and then when it gets the signal, it should go green. Boom, done. We are now linked up and bound. Power off, and we can go through and page until we get to our inputs. We're going to do an ARM mode, which I just call A. That's going to be the switch. And then we're going to go exit, exit, and then we're going to go here, and we're going to do F for flip over after crash. And we're going to make that one exit, 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 and we're going to page to the next one. And channel 5, we're going to make the A, the ARM, and channel 6, we're going to make the flip. So now in Betaflight, when we go to configure it, we know that aux 1, which is channel 5, aux 1 is our ARM switch, and aux 2 is going to be our flip over after crash, and that should really be all we need. I don't think we need anything else. And that's the configuration I use on all my quads for the most part. Unless I'm flying them indoor, and then I usually have an angle mode switch too, because it's hard to fly with that angle indoors for me. Yeah, because I am just not that good. Just not that good. We are going. That guy's very big, so I have some shrink wrap that works for this right here, and we're just going to cut off a chunk. Man, I've really got to clean up. Yeah, that's about enough. Okay, and then the handy dandy lighter comes back to kind of shrink this up. Flip it over, and you're done. Yay! Piece of cake. Now we can mount this pretty much anywhere we want. I'm gonna probably put it right here on top with a zip tie, just holding it down, and we can run these out the back or the bottom or whatever we want. Now, moving on, the next thing we need to figure out is our camera situation. So these the camera cage in this guy, it's a little bit funky. So this is the front camera cage, and as you can see, it's meant for cameras that are 9 times the size of this guy. So we're not going to go that route. We're still going to put this cage in place, but we're actually going to run the thing that shipped with it, which I think is this one actually. And let's see. Yep. So this little guy will mount to the frame itself, and that will we're just going to mount it right there, and that's going to provide our camera mounting option there. So we'll do that, and we want it back, so we're going to set it, yep, just like that. That's going to do. And here are a couple of can we run M3 through these, or are these only M2? Nope, they are M2 only, and we're going to need something a little longer than that guy. So into screw set here, let's go with this one and this one, and 2 of these lock nuts to go on top. That should be enough. I don't think I'll need any washers, but we'll see when we get it together. And we want it facing backwards, so we want to come up through, put that down on there like that, and then tighten this nut down a little bit. Yeah, we don't really use these little. That's just an age thing on this quad. It's designed a while back for sure, and it shows. We don't use these camera mounts very often anymore, and not every camera comes with them. Luckily, the Foxeer Aero does. It's only 20 bucks. Okay, I'm going to move it all the way back to the very back like that, and I'm going to try to tighten it down. Alright, this one down to the back. Okay, that actually feels pretty good. Just giving them one more little twist. That should hold it on there. And put it back up and over, and our screws. These are pretty long screws. I'm hoping, yeah, they should work okay. One down. Two down. That looks pretty good to me. I don't need a ton of up tilt. And then we can put our camera cage in place once we get our standoffs up, and we should be good to go. The next step is to tighten down the VTX, and we just want to make sure that we get our nuts in the little slot there. Yeah, there's one. Two. Three. And 4. Yep, that's on there. It's not going anywhere. The next one to go on is going to be this guy. Yep. I think that'll work out. And we'll just give him a couple little twists like so. Grab a zip tie and a little tiny bit of sticky tape. You really don't need all that much. It's really the zip tie is going to do all the work on this. But a little bit of sticky tape, keep it pretty much where you want it for now. And come on out the other side. It can go over. Nope, guess not. When in doubt, use a different zip tie. Manufacturer. Okay, that looks pretty good. And that'll come over like so. Now is the time. We are going to actually pull these guys out like so. And so we want to come up through the bottom plate. What we're doing here is we're basically making, oh God, of course I'd do it wrong. Down through the bottom plate. What we're doing here is we're basically making an antenna holder. Like this. And then we can just put some shrink wrap on that and boom, that's done. And we can do the same to the other side, which is like this and comes up through. No. Yeah, it's looking good. Let's get our standoffs on there, and then we can put the top on and call this one done. Take it over to Beta Flight and have ourselves a quad. All I'm doing here is giving it a couple of twists. What this will do is just kind of make this cable a little more manageable. Keep it kind of in the center of the quad so it's not flopping out on us. And these guys are snug enough that I don't really need to worry about them. And now we can put a up through them and put the yeah, this has been a fun little quad to kind of put together for a cheap, for my own brand of cheap. Anyway, it's actually not that bad. I'm rather pleased with how it's turned out so far. And like I said, if you want to spend just a little bit more money and get an F7 flight controller, it's going to be worth it, in my opinion, to do so. And I gotta say, I just like the feel of the F7. It just feels crisper, more responsive, easier to handle, easier to fly. And I've flown a bunch of F4 and a bunch of F7, and the F7 I think is just a better overall flyer. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. You know, the way of the world is to go faster, faster, faster. So, you know, it's only a matter of time before F4s get phased out the exact same way F7 or F3s did. And you know, the next thing will be smaller, faster, better. Yeah, looking good. We might be a little far back, and if we are, I can just loosen up those bolts and slide that camera forward. so that these uprights aren't like in, I keep saying uprights, I don't know why, but okay, we are at the point now where I think we can probably secure the top plate without too much worry. There's one. Two. Top plate goes kind of like this. Just make sure you've lined up everything, and then we'll do an all-up weight test as soon as we get this strapped on. Figure out what our prop situation is going to be. Probably some 49s or something close to that, if they'll fit. If the 51 466s, maybe something like that. Whatever it is, we'll make it work. Sometimes you just got to give it a little love tap. Get that carb in a seat. Yeah, you could file it, but then you'd be breathing in all the dust. Yeah, coming right along. Feels like progress here. Okay. Good. Good, good, good. I'm happy with that. Now, let's shrink wrap our one and two. Yeah, the way to sort of do this, and this is not any sort of official thing. You know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna come in like Yeah, there we go. That's got it mounted up there. And now we just secured the wire with a zip tie to keep it nice and tight in case we ever have to set it down. A little rough. Alright, slide this guy along there. Slide this one along here. Take the magic lighter, shrink that guy down. Do the same to the other side. And that is the diversity antenna for the XM Plus, or whatever the hell it is. And this is all garbage, garbage, garbage. Tons of garbage. Set this guy over here. Good. Now, one of the things I forgot to put on, and I just saw them sitting here, are these the nuts for the top of the flight controller. So don't forget those. And if you got to take the top plate off again, so be it. It's not the end of the world. But finger tight is also acceptable on these. So just do your best. That's probably good enough. And I think we're just about there. Now I'm tempted to use my grip on this guy rather than whatever this thing is. It just feels gross. It kind of smells. I don't know. Okay. Here's the one I melted. So what's going to happen here? Force it down on there and pray. Well, maybe not. Alright, what happened to the other one? Here's one. Like I said, finger tight is plenty. And honestly, we could take 4 or 5 millimeters out of this quad without too much trouble. Maybe even 10 millimeters if we really wanted to. So if we wanted to run 20 millimeter height, we'd lose some of the rigidity in our front camera cage, but it would still probably be a pretty nice flyer. All right. There it goes. Sometimes you just gotta give it a little extra brute force and eventually it'll do what you want. Even on those little melted standoffs that I had. Of course I used nylon standoffs on this one. And let's see here. Can we move this forward just a hair? Just by well, let's see if I can loosen it up just a tad more. There's one. And two. And what we're going to do is just slide the whole camera cage forward. Pretty happy with that, honestly. All I'm doing is I'm using the Allen driver to kind of lift it and while I tighten, and hopefully that'll work. That should be tight enough on that side, and then push this guy all the way up on this other side. Tighten it up just a hair. Give it a good... It looks pretty level. I'm gonna say that's okay. Just gently snug it up. Boom. Pretty happy with how that turned out. Pretty happy. Yeah. The came together, I think. Okay. Let's clean up just a tiny bit for a minute and then see if we can get a pair of props for this guy. This guy goes over here. So it goes down there. Yeah, I really don't care for that. I'm actually going to run some. I have this leftover grip from my cheap CL1, so that's what we're going to end up using. And I hope nobody gives me shit for using something I didn't buy specifically for this quad, but that's just how, I mean, it's just how it's done, man. You don't always have new shit for every single build you do. Sometimes you're reusing your old stuff. And while technically I did that for most of this, okay. That ought to be just about perfect, actually, with this little guy. I have this leftover little chunk. Just gotta set it right about there. Because grip is amazing. If you've never used it, buy some. I'm serious. It's one of the better substances that mankind has engineered. It's not a joke. I have no idea how long it all lasts, but the basic idea is that you just stick your quad on there and then you can pick your quad up with it. I mean, it's not then you can peel it off. It doesn't leave any residue. Stick it back on there, pick it up. Yep. And so I'm printing out now a GoPro mount for this. But that's going to be our quad there. And I'll grab... Hopefully. Anyway. Okay. Like so. Get her snugged up like that. We could run a second one if we wanted to back there a little more. And get our is that really for the CL1? I think this is for the CL1. Alright. The all up weight now of our quad. Bring our machine out. Make sure we're nice and level. No little solder balls throwing off our numbers. Okay. And we want to grab a pack of, now, what are these? These are the S5s. Let's see here. Let's see. Actually, one of the things we forgot to do is put tape on our arms. That's okay. Let's see, will the 5144s work? They will. Look at that. I'm alright with that then. Okay. Got these guys, and I'm not sure if these are even on in the right order. And we've got 2, 3, 4. Alright, we're at 600 grams without a GoPro, with a mount and that's with the 6S battery and our session. We're at 660, and if we go with a proper GoPro, where's my working GoPro? Where did it go? There's no battery in that one. We're at 730 with a GoPro, with a proper GoPro. So, but without any of that, with 6S, without a GoPro, 600 grams, that's not too bad. If you wanted to run 4S and get it down a little lower, you could actually take off probably 100 grams. Give or take. So that guy is 240 and this guy is probably 160 or 190. Yeah, so 60 grams you could save, 50 or 60 grams you could save. So if you really wanted to try and get it under 600 or under 500, I don't know why you would, but that's not too bad overall. Fairly happy with that. And I think that that's the end of this build series. I don't think I might actually put a thing on this just to hold it down or strap it in place or something, because it's a little loose. Yeah, it's just it's a little bit flopping about. And not only that, but when it's flying, I'm not going to be able to see it at all. Maybe I can get it up. I don't know. I'll figure something out. And you'll obviously see flight video. But yeah, we probably don't want to leave it just dangling like that. I don't think. Hey, might be all right. I don't know. I might leave it. Anyway, that's it. Next video you see should be flight footage. Thank you for watching.